A very good morning to all of you. This is C. Ridma Bhatia, and we are discussing taxation. Today, I've joined you to take two topics, which is income of other persons included in assessee's total income, which is commonly called as clubbing provisions, and set off and carry forward of losses, which is your next chapter, which would be taking up in the next part of the class, which is second part of the class. So I'll request everyone to settle in and we can discuss and start in next 1 minute. So I hope everyone is doing fine. Very good morning, Sudhanshu, Aisha, Komal, Diksha, Bhumika, Darshan, Ravi, Ajiv, Kavita, Madhav. A very good morning to all of you. Good morning, Sushil. So let's begin. So what do you mean by income of other persons included in assessee's total income? Now, this is very common, especially when we have slab rates. You have to understand why this particular chapter or provisions were added in the income tax provision. So when we have slab rates matlab more the income, more the tax, less the income, less the tax, and we have a benefit of basic exemption limit. People tend to use it. Now, suppose I already have an income of 10 lakhs. Any additional income would be taxed at the rate of 30%, correct? But suppose I know someone who I can trust with and transfer my income to, because that person is falling on maybe a 5% slab rate, or that person might not have income which is taxable. So I can transfer that income to him. So instead of I getting that income in my account, I can get that income in his account or her account, who has a comparatively lower income. But ultimately, वो income किसका है? मेरा. To whom such income belongs to me, right? So to avoid such diversions, just to save tax or for the purpose of tax evasion, clubbing provisions were introduced. Clubbing provisions were introduced, or we say income of other persons included in assessee's total income provisions were introduced. Now, if I break down the chapter name, किसी और person का income has to be included in assessee's total income, and the reason why is because it actually belongs to assessee only, or it is because of assessee only. Assessee matlab hum, as an individual, it belongs to me only, or it is because of me only, or I have a right of it still, then it would be included in assessee's income. Kiska income? Other person ka income. So isko hum commonly we call as clubbing provisions. Club karna income ko, add karna income ko, that's why it's called clubbing. Got it? So now, what all are clubbing provisions? All type of income which are transferred are clubbing provisions? Actually not. Let us take through what all are clubbing provisions. It's a very sweet, chota, important chapter. Let's just 1 second. So clubbing provisions actually goes from section 60 to 64. यहाँ पे clubbing provisions are only the one which you can see on the screen. If your transactions or the other person income is falling in any of these categories, then only it would be clubbed with assessee's income. If not, then it would not be clubbed. If not, then it would not be clubbed. The first two scenarios which you can see on your left, transfer of income without transfer of asset and income from revocable transfer belongs to all assessees. That means These provisions are applicable to all assessees. Next provisions, which are when would spouse income be clubbed, when would minor income would be clubbed, or when would son's wife income would be clubbed, definitely belongs only to the assessees who are individual. So we will be picking up scenario by scenario. Ek hai, which is applicable to all, which is section 60 and 61. And others is when in individual's income, the spouse income would be clubbed, the minor's income would be clubbed, and son's wife income would be clubbed. Ma'am, daughter's income, son's income, clubbing pe nahi aayega. Yes, because these provisions, which you can see prima facie, are not applicable from clubbing perspective. Only the income which are written here would be clubbed. Only the transactions which are written here would be clubbed. Sons or daughter का यहाँ पे section 60, 61 में fall होता है या नहीं, we will see. But specifically the categories are section 60, 61, section 64 में clause subsection 1 में we have clause 2, clause 4, clause 7, clause 6, clause 8, ठीक है. And इसके अलावा एक HUF का provisions है कि when HUF's income would be clubbed in individual. So only this is what you have to consider. इसके अलावा any transaction which comes in your mind not falling on this table would not be. Yeah. So सबसे पहला provision, my friends, are transfer of income without transfer of asset. What do you mean by this? Transfer of income without transfer of asset. मैंने किसी को income transfer कर दिया without transferring the asset. Let's take an example. A है and एक उनका son है. Okay. Now the godown belongs to A. Asset का godown, which is the godown, belongs to A. Now A let out this godown to Mr. B. Mr. B technically would give rent to Mr. A, correct? But A said it in agreement that instead of giving rent to me, give that rent to my son. अब B को क्या लेना देना? B को तो बस transaction करना. B has to deposit that amount as an obligation. So he deposited that income in son's account. Now, since A was falling already in a higher slab rate and son was falling in a lower slab rate, so he thought that let's plan it in a way that all the incomes are getting credited in son's account and we will show it. Son declaring is not an issue. The point is actually in whose hand that income should be taxable, right? So ultimately, prima facie, income tax generally verify the credit entries, and if you're showing those credit entries in your return, they will not catch a hold of you. But section 60 has clearly said that if the asset has not been transferred, which is the A is still the owner of the asset, only the income has been transferred. Only the income has been transferred. In that situation, income would be clubbed in assessee's income, or income would be included in the assessee's income. This is called transfer of income without transferring of an asset. Anyone has any doubt in this? So that income can be transferred to anyone. It can be transferred to son, it can be transferred to friend, it does not matter. But had A given go down to son, gift free of cost, etc., etc., that in a way transfer has happened as per section 2, as per section 47. Once that has happened, then there is no problem, right? But if the transfer has not happened, only the income has been diverted or income has been transferred, then the income would be clubbed in assessee's hand. Got it? किसी को यहाँ पे कोई doubt? Anyone has any doubt यहाँ पे? Perfect. Next provision is very nice, which is called income arising from revocable transfer of an asset. But first, to understand what is the clubbing provisions under section 61, we have to understand this term called revocable. Some people say it's revocable, whatever you pronounce it right. Okay. So income arising from revocable transfer of an asset. What is revocable? Revocable means anything which has a power to get back or a right back. So a transfer is called revocable if it contains any provisions for retransfer directly or indirectly of the whole or any part of the income or the asset, or it gives in any way the transferor a right to resume the power directly or indirectly over the whole or any part of the income or the asset. Ma'am, revocable means either when a person, revocable transfer means when the person who is transferring, Mr. A, has the right, I'll say, he transfers a property, okay, has a right on this property, because first provision कहते हैं कि transfer of income without transfer of asset would lead to clubbing provisions, right? But second provision is saying that you have made a transfer, but this transfer is revocable. Now, what is revocable? That revocable means when you have the right on that asset or on the income of the asset, even after transferring, So that means there is some mischievousness. You have just given it through a transaction so that clubbing provisions does not apply on you, but you have all the right. Transfer का मतलब क्या होता है? To give up your rights on that asset, right? But even after transferring, you are still maintaining a right either on the income or on the asset, or by any way, sometimes or after a few times, that asset would come to you. You have that right to you. You have that right to retransfer it to you. Then that is called a revocable transfer. That means transfer तो हुआ है, but वो किसी भी time revoke हो सकता है. It can be taken back at any time. Why? Because the transferor still holds the right on the income or on the asset, and he has that power directly or indirectly on that asset. He can retransfer it or has a power in it. It may happen that, suppose I say Mr. A has transferred a property to Mr. B with the condition that whatever income this property would generate would be given to Mrs. A. Now, this is a revocable transfer. Transfer हुआ with the condition that whatever income would be generated from the property would be given to A's wife, right? So this is, my friend, a revocable transfer. Now, in this case, whatever income that property is generating would be clubbed in the hands of Mr. A, because directly or indirectly, he has the right on the part of the income. And only that part would be clubbed on which that person has a right. That part of the income would be clubbed, or income from that part of the asset only would be clubbed, on which the transferor still holds the right of resuming the power or retransferring it, or as a right on the use of that income. Got it? Revocable transfer samajh aaya? So anything from revocable transfer is to be clubbed in the hands of transferor itself. But इसका एक exception है. Let's take it. इसका एक exception है that even if it's a revocable transfer, still clubbing provisions would not be attracted. Ma'am, when it's a revocable transfer, matlab I can take it back at any time I want, right? So if it is not revoked during the lifetime of the beneficiary or the transferee, then even if it's a revocable transfer would not be clubbed. Example, Mr. A transferred property to a trust which is taking care of, say, one of a child Mr. A adopted or is a legal guardian of. Okay. Now, till the time that beneficiary is alive, the transfer says that the property would be used till the time of the benefit for the benefits of the beneficiary and till the time of life of the beneficiary. Once the beneficiary dies, the property will go back to Mr. A. Now, you will say, ma'am, it's a revocable transfer because it has a condition of retransferring it. Yes, but since the condition of retransferring is only after the life of the beneficiary or only after the lifetime of the transferee, then in that case, the clubbing provisions would not apply. Revocable है, retransfer हो सकता है, but the event is the death of the beneficiary or the death of the transferee. So in that case, even if it is a revocable transfer, still clubbing provisions would not apply. Got it? Anyone has any doubt in this? What is revocable transfer? What is the exception when revocable transfer would not be taxable? Okay, Aisha, very smart. Benami Act would apply. You see, Benami Act is different. Benami Act, if you call, you are being judged as per the Benami Act provisions. Every transaction might have impacts in multiple acts. Okay, it might have impacts in my Money Laundering Act, it might have impact in my Benami Act, it might have impact in my Income Tax Act. So when we are studying from income tax, we have to see from income tax perspective whether clubbing provisions are applicable or not. Bhumika, to answer your question, I'll just take some 10-15 minutes more and then I'll come to your question. In case I miss it, do ping me again, okay? So transfer of income without transfer of asset, clubbing provisions. Transfer of asset hai, but that is revocable transfer, clubbing provisions. Revocable transfer hai, but not during the lifetime of beneficiary or the transferee, no clubbing provisions. Got it? Now let's move to the next part of the class, which is when individuals के case में, only now individuals के case में, अभी तक the two first two provisions can apply to companies also. Company transferring asset without transferring income, or sorry, company transferring income without transferring asset, or company making a revocable transfer, or HF making a revocable transfer, or partnership firm making a revocable transfer. These provisions can apply to anyone and everyone. But now the clubbing provisions, which are very common, are from individual's perspective, what we'll be going to start. Okay, so simple start karte hain first from we will start with, let's start with minor first. Okay. I hope the screen is visible. Yeah. So सबसे पहले now we are talking about individuals. Individuals are friends, except section 60 and 61 when applied. उसके अलावा individuals के case में clubbing can happen for minors income, for spouse income, for son's wife, as in your daughter-in-law income, and if HUF income is there. Only in situation may these are other person मतलब minor, other person's spouse, other person's son's wife, or other person would be HUF. When other person income would be clubbed in individual income is what we have to understand. Okay, so यहाँ पे individual minor, spouse, son, wife, etc. नहीं है guys. These are the other persons, and in these particular scenarios, they can be covered with or clubbed with the income of individual. So first, let's start with minor ka income. When would minor income be clubbed in the hands of individual? Generally, all the time. Minor matlab the person who is below 18 years of age. Okay, so generally minor का as such कुछ income नहीं होता. What do people do? Parents क्या करते हैं? FD minor के नाम पे कर लेंगे. They will do FD in the name of minor. They would purchase shares in the name of minor. They would do tradings in the name of minor. A minor is not capable of doing all those things, right? Or minor might get different gifts. ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स से गिफ्ट मिल रहा है, एफडी करा दिया, गोल्ड मिल रहा है माइनर को, वो बेच दिया. एनी इनकम व्हिच इज अराइजिंग टू माइनर has to be clubbed with the hands of parent as in individual. Okay, the question comes which individual, as in which parent. Father के साथ club करना है और mother के साथ. With father's income it has to be clubbed, or with mother's income it has to be clubbed. So the answer is the income would be clubbed with the parent who has higher income excluding minor income. So suppose Mr. X has an income excluding minor's income as 7 lakh taxable income, and Mrs. X has 8 lakhs. So the minor income would be clubbed with Mrs. X, the mother. And once the clubbing provisions apply for the minor income to be clubbed with the income of the parent who has the higher income, it would be applicable for subsequent years also. Subsequent years matlab, now suppose in previous year 22-23 this was the income. Now you will say कि मैम minor का जो भी income आ रहा है, suppose FD interest आ रहा है, should be clubbed with Mrs. X. I agree. Now in next year and say next year also, X income is higher than Mrs. X. This is 9 lakh and 10 lakh in respect to Mrs. X being 7 lakhs and 8 lakhs. So now you will say, ma'am, higher income is of Mr. X in the subsequent year. So now the clubbing provisions should apply to Mr. X. No. Ek bari, if the income is clubbed with one of the parent being the higher income, it would go on for subsequent years also. Once club, subsequent years में भी same person के साथ, same parent के साथ the income would be clubbed. It would not be changed even if in the subsequent years the income of the other parent is higher. But yes, that being said, AO can anytime interrupt and say कि अब इस parent के साथ करो, irrespective of the income criteria. Only AO can change it in subsequent years, not you. So now if my child has say income from FD or capital gains now, and my spouse income is higher, so it would be clubbed in my spouse income. Whatever is the income component. Income component matlab interest component. FD को club नहीं करोगे guys, income को club करना है. Okay, so the income component, whatever interest on FD is coming, whatever capital gain has happened, that would be clubbed with the husband's income because his income is higher. Now, if next year my income is higher, still the income of the minor child would be clubbed with the husband income only. Got it? Now, clubbing for the minor, which is there as per section 64, subsection 1A, वहां पे दो और चीजें हैं which you have to take care of. Clubbing का idea क्या था कि people do not evade taxes or people do not find route to evade taxes, right? This was the idea. But suppose the minor is earning something because of his own talent or because of his own special skill or because of his own manual work, then in that case clubbing provision should not be applied because वो तो खुद talent से कमा रहा है. Clubbing का idea was to pick up situations where people are just diverting the income which actually belongs to them. अब FD minor की कैसे हो सकती है? And you must have diverted your funds, right? You must have diverted your funds and get the interest on it. So, but in situations where the minor is actually getting income from manual work, maybe he's doing some mazduri, special talent, or the person is specially skilled, that is, he's disabled. In that case, the income would not be clubbed with the income of the parent. It would be taxable in the hands of minor itself. So, suppose a person goes and acts in a film. Whatever part that child is getting from acting in the film would not be clubbed because it is from his own special talent. It is from his own special talent. Or say, if a person goes junior KBC mein, that child is winning an amount, it would not be clubbed because that is from the special talent. Got it? But अब वो income को if parents invest into FD and us FD pay if the parent get interest, this interest, my friend, would be clubbed definitely with the income of higher parent or is it with the income of the parent who has higher income. ठीक है? So यहाँ पे ध्यान रखना manual work, special talent or disability से की वजह or when a minor is disabled, any income getting accrued to the minor would not be clubbed. But suppose from the special talent अब वो करोड़पति के अमाउंट से KBC के अमाउंट से the person has invested that amount in FD and that FD से interest is coming, that my friends would be clubbed. Last point under this is the benefit or exemption which has been given to the parent. The parent in whose hand the income would be clubbed would get an exemption up to 1,500 per annum per child. So suppose the FD interest which is getting clubbed is 10,000 of the minor child. तो कितना amount taxable होगा after exemption of 1,500, 8,500 friend would be taxable. ठीक है? Any doubt? Quickly go through the provisions of section 64, subsection 1A and tell if there is any doubt. मैम पेरेंट्स का मैरिज नहीं है, पेरेंट्स आर सेपरेटेड तब भी हायर इनकम पे नहीं, देन टेक्निकली द पेरेंट हु इज मेंटेनिंग द चाइल्ड उनकी इनकम पे इट वुड बी टैक्सेबल. मैम ऑल टाइप्स ऑफ चिल्ड्रन आर कवर्ड, यस, adopted, biological, all types of income, all types of children are covered. Eighth clause को थोड़ी देर के लिए you can ignore, we will cover to eighth clause also. Quickly do illustration 7 also one. ठीक है? जॉइंट कस्टडी, ये सब चीजें, whosoever is finally maintaining the child, जिसके साथ whosoever parent with whom the child is staying with, who that person has the right of, or I should say that person has a duty to club the income. Guys, clubbing का question or set of carry forward the question, it can be direct 2 mark or 3 mark, or can come as an MCQ, but it would be a single adjustment which can come in a full-fledged question. So you have to be very attentive from the question perspective. Okay. ऐसा नहीं है कि it would come directly. It can come directly, but highly likable it would be a part of an adjustment of a full-fledged question. So please be very, very careful. No one would say, okay, apply clubbing provisions and tell the answer. You all have to be very smart to see, oh, income is getting transferred, asset is not getting transferred, it's a clubbing provision. Oh, minor child is there, it's a clubbing provision which I have to apply for. Okay. Got it? चले आगे, चलो. अब और ज्यादा रिलेटेबिलिटी फैक्टर आएगा, बिकॉज नाउ वी आर कमिंग टू स्पाउस. See, mother minor can apply for PAN cards, and they are given the number, but basically that PAN card is of no use from the perspective, because that PAN card is not signed, that's not duly authenticated. ऐसा नहीं कि minor cannot apply for the PAN cards. Good, Rajiv. Now let's move to the very interesting concept, which is spouse per income कब club होगा in the hands of individual. The spouse का income clubbing में can come either through remuneration earned by spouse, not all remuneration, friends, or spouse is earning an income from the asset transferred without consideration or without adequate consideration, or any asset which is transferred for the benefit of the spouse. Slowly we'll cover up all. ये बात समझ आ गई, उसके बाद it's very easy. The first is remuneration. When would spouse remuneration be clubbed with the income of the individual? अब आप बोलोगे कि मैम remuneration, salary, commission, etc. तो मिल रहा है, इसमें clubbing provisions, how are they getting applied? Now, ध्यान से सुनना the situation. Let's take up a scenario. Scenario लेते हैं हम okay, so we have a person, Mr. Jolly. He is running a business. He is the owner. He has a proprietorship. A proprietorship में he has to claim some expenses. Expenses में उन्होंने क्या किया कि salary दिखा दिया. किसका salary दिखा दिया? Expenses में salary paid to Mrs. Jolly. उन्होंने कहा कि बेनिफिट हो जाएगा भाई, क्योंकि एक्सपेंडिचर मुझे मिल जाएगा, माय प्रॉफिट्स वुड बी लोअर, एंड यहाँ पे मिसेस जॉली का वैसे भी देयर इज नो सच टैक्सेबल इनकम, तो वो सैलरी अगर दिखा भी देंगी देयर वुड बी नो प्रॉब्लम. सैलरी रिसीव फ्रॉम प्रोप्राइटरशिप ऑफ मिस्टर जॉली. करेक्ट. there would be no such problem, and Mr. Jolly is very happy. Why? Because he's getting expenditure ka deduction also, and the income is not getting taxed in the hands of Mrs. Jolly. Why? Because वो basic exemption limit से कम है, right? So in this situation, and to avoid these smart tax plannings of or smart tax evasion, I should use the word, of people, clubbing provisions for spouse remuneration were included. They said that if the spouse is getting remuneration, who is getting the remuneration? Spouse is getting a remuneration from a concern. Concern means a business entity. अब आप बोलोगे कि मैम इसमें क्लबिंग डायरेक्टली कैसे लग रहा है, कंसर्न एंड स्पाउस, व्हाट इज द रीजन? एंड in this concern, the assessee has a controlling power, as in a substantial interest. You will not use the word controlling, you will use the word substantial interest. Assessee or his relatives. Relatives milake, they are having a substantial interest in what? In the concern. And us concern say remuneration is getting generated to the spouse. Then that remuneration ka matlab salary, commission, bonus, etc., whatever the name is, would be clubbed in the income of the assessee. Up the question is, ma'am, what is the substantial interest? Substantial interest means a place where you have a controlling authority, or you're coming into controlling authority. How can that come? Either if I talk about the concern being a company, and in that company you have 20% or more voting power or shareholding, or if I'm talking about other than company, then you have more than 20% of or 20% or more than the profit sharing ratio. Okay? Either way, you along with your relatives, ma'am, relatives matlab spouse, mother, father, brother, sister, linear ascendants, linear dependents, इनको मिला के if you have a substantial interest in a concern, that concern is giving remuneration to spouse, then it would be clubbed in the assessee's hand. It would be clubbed in the assessee's hand. But if spouse is getting genuinely an income because of her skills, because of her being qualified, and it is not unreasonable, in that case, clubbing provisions would not apply. So suppose the spouse is a doctor, okay, but she is getting an income for remuneration to assist in marketing. But now you say, ma'am, doctor has marketing ka, so yahan pe this remuneration is definitely just to get the benefit of evasion. So this would be clubbed. But suppose the spouse is a MBA in marketing, and now she's getting the remuneration for the marketing function only. So in that case, she's skilled enough, she's qualified enough to get that remuneration, right? And if that remuneration is reasonable, it would not be clubbed. It would not be clubbed. Makes sense also. If I'm getting something not from the eyes of evasion, then it should not be clubbed, right? But if I'm getting something because there was an element of evasion of taxes, it should be clubbed. Simple. So now if I pick up this question, Mr. A holds shares carrying 25% voting power in X Private Limited. Private Limited, 25% voting power, substantial interest. Mrs. A is working as a computer software programmer in X Private Limited at a salary of 30,000 per month. She is, however, not qualified for the job. The other income of Mr. A and Mrs. A are 7 and 4 lakhs respectively. Compute the gross total income of Mr. A and Mrs. A for the assessment year 23-24, assuming that they do not opt for Section 115 BAC. The question is simple. This 30,000 per month would get taxed in the hands of Mr. A through clubbing provisions. So this salary of 30,000 into 12 minus 50,000 the standard deduction would get clubbed with other income of 7 lakh, and final total income would be 10 lakh 10,000. Okay. Now my advice here, agar question mein nahi likha hua, assuming they have not opted for Section 115 BAC, be careful that you give standard deduction. If it is written that they are opting, do not give standard deduction. for assessment year 23-24. Okay, so please be very attentive in writing your assumptions. Question में assumptions कुछ नहीं लिखा हुआ, then you write it in your working notes. Make a habit to write it and not assume it. Okay. And if Mrs. A was qualified for the job, then 7 lakh होता and Mrs. A का 3 lakh into 12 minus 50,000 plus 4 lakh वो वहां पे हो जाता. Okay, got it? Anyone has any doubt for remuneration when club? Easy है, बस you have to be careful. So next, now we come to the other part. ये वाला remuneration वाला part हो गया clear, right? Next is when the asset is transferred without consideration or without advocate consideration or inadvocate consideration. Okay, let's start this. Now, ma'am, ये line ना अपने last class when you used this line transfer of house property में section 27 में that when a house property is transferred to spouse without consideration, यानी कोई consideration नहीं लिया, consideration is missing, or without advocate consideration. Advocacy is missing, मतलब consideration तो है, but it is not advocate. Or you can use the word inadvocate consideration. Whatever you write, please don't write without inadvocate consideration. Okay, either write without advocate consideration or without or inadvocate consideration. ठीक है? So आपने कहा था कि when section 27 I'm talking about deemed ownership, you said that ma'am, if there is no consideration and or there is a consideration but this is not advocate, the owner would be deemed to be the transferor when such case is happening between a husband or a wife or between spouse. So if Mr. A transfers a house property to Mrs. A as a gift also, and consideration can never be love and affection from the perspective of law. Without consideration, he is transferring. So Mr. A would remain the owner and he would be deemed to be the owner and it would be considered his property, right? This you said, and this you remember, this is for house property. But suppose the assets which I'm talking about are other than house property. Now suppose Mr. A has transferred some shares in the name of Mrs. A. अब आप गिफ्ट्स के साथ इसको जोड़ते हैं, टैक्सेबिलिटी पर्सपेक्टिव से इट इज नॉट टैक्सेबल व्हेन शेयर्स आर बीइंग गिफ्ट टू मिसेस ए. You will say कि ma'am, gift is not taxable. Okay, I'm not talking about the gift. I'm talking from the clubbing provisions. Now these shares are given free of cost, without consideration or without advocate consideration. So whatever the income these shares are getting generated, be it dividend, be it capital gain, would be clubbed in the hands of the transferor. Why? Because these were transferred to the spouse without consideration or without adequate consideration. So whatever the income which gets generated from these shares would be taxable in the hands of the transferor through clubbing provisions. But अगर यही asset-based house property है, तो वहां पे already एक section है, section 27, where he is considered to be the deemed owner. Where he is considered to be the deemed owner. मैम provisions बात एक ही हो रहा है, taxable एक ही हाथ में हो रहा है, but house property के case में it is getting taxed through section 27. Other assets के case में it is getting taxed through section 64, subsection 1, clause 4, that is clubbing provisions. Got it? तो जो शेयर से इनकम आएगा, whatever income is coming from shares, whatever income, be it dividend, be it capital gain, would be taxed in the hands of Mr. A through clubbing provisions. Transfer of asset without consideration or without adequate consideration. If Mrs. A has given the consideration for it, then guys, no clubbing provisions. Now the question comes, if it is for the agreement to live apart, as in alimony you have to transfer, so now section 27 apply hota hai, now section 64 get applied. So if it's for an agreement to live apart, it is for consideration for living apart, these shares have been given, then in that case, no clubbing provisions get applied. And it is very important to remember as a person that clubbing provisions would be attracted if at the time of transfer the marriage should subsist, and at the time of income when it is getting clubbed the marriage should be there. As in the relationship of husband and wife should subsist for clubbing provisions to apply. आज शेयर ट्रांसफर कर दिया तब मैरिज था, अब कल को वो इनकम generate हो रहा है but the marriage is not there, they have separated, then in that case clubbing would not apply. Transfer of asset के time पे and income generation के time पे, दोनों के time पे marriage should be there for clubbing provisions to get applied. Because again the idea for clubbing provisions is कि evasion को रोकना है. Genuine transactions, genuine impacts को नहीं, they want to tax it. The idea is just कि person stop evading taxes in the name of gifts or transfers. Okay? Is it clear? Section नहीं लिख पा रहे, but at least remember which sections fall. You cannot write section 64 subsection 1 clause 4, no problem. Write section 64. Remember itna कि section 64 में individuals के clubbing provisions are there. At least try to adapt it. अगर आज से ही file से कि no need to write the section, you will never come into the behavior of adapting and writing and remembering those sections. ठीक है? Try to remember it. Start from thoda thoda. Section 36, when I talk about, so immediately it should come in your mind that they are talking about admissible deductions when I talk about PGBP. If I say section 27, immediately it should come to your mind that deemed ownership is there. These sections you should remember. House property में किसी ने clubbing लिखा ना when spouse is there, so I will come directly at your home and say कि house property में clubbing नहीं आएगा, house property में deeming provisions of ownership आएंगे section 27. Okay? Next, my friend, इसी में एक question की perspective से very commonly it comes is transfer of asset invested in business. Now I told you the idea of clubbing is that you transfer an asset, asset does not get clubbed, the income from that asset gets clubbed. Okay, remember all the time this thing, the income gets clubbed, income is getting clubbed, income is getting clubbed. So if husband is transferring an asset to wife or wife is transferring an asset to husband without consideration or without adequate consideration, clubbing provision would apply on the income. But if that asset is house property, section 27 provisions would apply, provided in all the cases there is no transfer because of agreement to live apart. Okay. Now that asset, my friend, can be anything. That asset can be shares. That asset can be even cash, right? Now suppose husband has given cash to wife or loan or some money to wife, and that amount is now invested in business. So business में that amount is invested. A business के लिए income क्या है? The profits. The profits. So when that amounts get invested in the business, the income which should be clubbed is technically the profits. The income which should be clubbed is technically the profits. So profits in this case has to be clubbed. Now the question comes कि ma'am सारा का सारा profit? Yes, अगर business is getting started from the capital which is ultimately coming from husband, then entire profit has to be taxed. But suppose business is getting started with some part of the consideration coming from husband, then only the proportionate amount should be taxed. Number one. Number two, only the proportionate amount, and it would be clubbed only to the extent of the amount which is there in the capital contribution on the first day of the year, on the first day of the previous year. Ma'am, matlab, so suppose husband has transferred an amount to wife, which wife would use on the in the business, but this amount is transferred on say 25th July 2022. Okay. Now the business profit for previous year 22-23 comes to 6 lakhs. Now, isme clubbing provisions would apply? No, because in this profit, the opening capital contribution is as on 1st April 2022. And 1st April 2022 tak husband ne wife ko nothing was given. So no clubbing would apply on this 6 lakhs. But now next year, previous year 23-24 ki profit mein clubbing provisions would apply to the extent of the amount given to the husband. So let's pick up a question and we'll get more clarity on it. Mr. Webber started a proprietary business on 1st of April 21 with a capital of 5 lakhs. He incurred a loss of 2 lakhs during the previous year 21-22. To overcome the financial position, his wife Vishali, a software engineer, gave a gift of 5 lakhs on 1st April 22, which was immediately invested in the business by Webber. He earned a profit of 4 lakh. How lucky! During the year 22-23, compute the amount to be clubbed in the hands of Vishali for assessment year 23-24. What would be your answer if Vishali gave the said amount as no? Pehla point is, यहाँ पे दो assessment years है. One is previous year 21-22 and another is previous year 22-23. Previous year 21-22 का opening capital is 5 lakhs. उसमें से 2 lakhs का loss हुआ, तो 3 lakhs becomes the closing capital, right? अब 22-23 में आए, opening capital कितना हो गया? 3 lakhs, which is carry forwarded plus 5 lakhs. 8 lakhs का opening capital है because it is invested immediately. Now, इस 8 lakhs के total capital में profit कितना हुआ? 4 lakh का. Now, my friends, 4 lakh को you will proportionate it, and the club amount would be total 4 lakhs is earned on a total capital of 8 lakhs, out of which how much is coming from Vishali? 5 lakhs. So here, friends, how much amount would be clubbed? 4 lakh का ही है ना profit. यहाँ तक किसी को doubt है? Mm-hmm. 2,50,000 would be clubbed. Is it clear? Now the next thing is, if the amount is given as loan, loan is not a transfer. Loan is you have the right to get it back, right? So loan के case में clubbing provisions would not apply. So whenever a business related question comes, you have to be careful. Only opening capital if has a share from the spouse, then only clubbing provisions would apply. Opening capital में, and opening capital में spouse का share हो सकता है whatever he has transferred, plus पहले का capital भी हो सकता है. ठीक है? If that is there, proportionate amount would be clubbed. Got it? ये क्वेश्चन मेरे को एक्चुअली में अच्छा लगता है, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है. इवन इफ मेरा वाला एग्जांपल याद रखना, इवन इफ लास्ट ईयर के मिडिल ईयर में, एज ए लास्ट प्रीवियस ईयर के प्रीसीडिंग प्रीवियस ईयर के मिड ईयर में भी अमाउंट दिया है, स्टिल क्लबिंग प्रोविजंस वुड नॉट अप्लाई. Clubbing provisions would only apply if opening capital में the amount is there. And last, जिस पे इतने questions नहीं आते, transfer of asset for the benefit of spouse. मतलब spouse को ना transfer करके, if a person is transferring the asset to some other person and that other person would use the income of the asset for the benefit of the spouse, then in that case, my friend, the clubbing provisions would apply, provided the transfer is without adequate consideration or without consideration. Okay? Simple. Now coming to when son's wife income would be clubbed. तो यहाँ पे we saw remuneration. Spouse का remuneration कब club होगा? जब substantial interest होगा and the spouse is getting that income without that qualification. Asset transferred other than house property would be clubbed if asset transferred, income from the asset transferred without consideration or adequate consideration would be clubbed other than house property for spouse. And income from the asset which is transferred to another person, but the income would be used for the benefit of spouse, then also the income from such asset should be clubbed. But यहाँ पे all the situation में the criteria is without consideration or without adequate consideration. Okay, now we move ahead to understand when would son's wife income would be clubbed. Now son's wife income, friends, would be clubbed when an asset is transferred to her without consideration or without adequate consideration. There is no consideration or no adequate consideration. And here, friends, house property would also come. So, if we are transferring an asset, who would transfer the asset? The father-in-law or the mother-in-law? Son transferring to son's wife would come under spouse transfer, right? But when a father-in-law or a mother-in-law is transferring an asset to the daughter-in-law, यहाँ पे son-in-law का नहीं, only the daughter-in-law का है. In that case, from that asset, whatever consideration is coming, or whatever income is coming, would get clubbed. But the asset should be transferred without consideration or without inadequate consideration, and the relationship of son's wife and the father-in-law, mother-in-law should subsist at the time of transfer and at the time of generation of income. Then the income has to be clubbed. Suppose the mother-in-law has transferred jewelry to son's wife. अब section 56 के according capital क्या कहते हैं, gift है but not taxable है because relatives है. But if suppose the son's wife sells that jewelry, then in that case whatever capital gain would come, my friend, would be taxable in the hands of mother-in-law because this jewelry was transferred without consideration to son's wife. Similarly, suppose father-in-law has taken a house in the name of son's wife. Now, from that house, whatever rental income is coming would go under the income of father-in-law through clubbing provisions. Deeming provisions nahi aayenge, guys. Ownership wala section 27 would not apply here because section 27 was not there on son's wife. Section 27 was only, if you remember, was between spouse or transfer of house property to minor child other than minor married daughter. Remember? So, khali is case mein section 27 apply. Section 27 does not apply in son's wife. So, yahan pe any asset, be it house property or anything, clubbing provisions would apply on the income of an asset which is transferred without consideration or without adequate consideration. Got it? Now, both situation mein whether I'm talking about spouse को asset transfer किया, or whether I'm talking about son's wife, where clubbing provisions are applied. In both the situations, only the income from the transferred asset has to be clubbed. Income from transferred asset. Now suppose मैंने शेयर्स दिए स्पाउस को और शेयर्स दिए सन्स वाइफ को. ओके, नाउ इस शेयर से whatever capital gain is coming, that would be clubbed in the hands of me if I've given it to my spouse without consideration or without adequate consideration, and similarly for son's wife. So whatever capital gain or dividend income comes would be clubbed in my hand. Now suppose from this capital gain or from this dividend, the spouse has invested that amount in FD. उस इनकम को आगे इन्वेस्ट कर दिया, एफडी से नाउ इंटरेस्ट इज कमिंग, दिस इंटरेस्ट वुड नॉट बी क्लब. इनकम फ्रॉम फर्दर एक्रीशन ऑफ द एसेट वुड नॉट बी क्लब. कैपिटल गेन वाला पार्ट वुड बी क्लब यहां तक, बिकॉज द एसेट व्हिच इज ट्रांसफर्ड इज शेयर्स. The income that is coming from that transfer from that asset is capital gain. This, my friend, has to be clubbed. But अब वो कैपिटल गेन का जो अमाउंट हुआ, जो इनकम हुआ, उसको स्पाउस ने आगे एफडी में कर लिया, एफडी से जो इंटरेस्ट हो रहा है, that would not be clubbed. Taking another example, son's wife का करते हैं. Father-in-law transferred a house to son's wife. Even if he is not taking back that income in his account, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि मैम उसको वापस नहीं मिल रहा, वो तो son's wife को ही मिल रहा है, वही उस अपने मेंटेनेंस के लिए यूज करके. does not matter. The act says आपने कुछ एसेट ट्रांसफर करा विदाउट कंसिडरेशन और एडवोकेट कंसिडरेशन, clubbing would apply. So if father-in-law has transferred a house in the name of son's wife, clubbing provisions would apply on the rental income coming. Okay. Now if rental income is invested by son's wife in purchasing some shares, अब वो शेयर से डिविडेंड इनकम जो आएगा, that would not be clubbed. That would be income of son's wife, because the questions or the law says income arising from the asset transferred without consideration. It is nowhere saying income arising from the asset transferred from without consideration and then further income arising from that particular income. No, only the asset transfer, khali uska income. Simple. Got it? So this you have to take care whenever this is called accretion of the income coming from an asset. उसको जब आप further invest कर रहे हो, that would not come into clubbing provisions. Last part or last two part of the clubbing part we'll take up quickly. Other points में लेते हैं, other points में. One second. HUF. HUF का इनकम कब क्लब होगा? So suppose same individual ने क्या किया? Individual transferred the property which he has in the name of HUF without consideration. Individual transferred the property in the name of HUF without consideration or adequate consideration, as in inadequate consideration. ठीक है? So individual transferred the property to HUF without consideration or without adequate consideration. Then in that case, whatever the HUF is earning, the income, it would be clubbed in the hands of individual. This is section 64, subsection 2. So asset transferred to HUF without consideration or inadequate consideration, whatever income is getting from that asset would be clubbed in the hands of individual. Simple. अब यहाँ पे एक टेक्निकल चीज डाल दिया, पार्टीशन. Now इंडिविजुअल ने क्या किया, वो एसेट HUF को ट्रांसफर कर दिया. Individual transferred the assets to HUF. Whatever income is getting generated would be clubbed in the hands of HUF. Now later HUF partition, HUF का partition हो गया. that asset also get parted, right? Now that asset was parted with between 5-6 members. इंडिविजुअल को कुछ मिला, इंडिविजुअल का स्पाउस को कुछ मिला, अदर ब्रदर्स एंड सिस्टर्स को मिला, एवरीवन गॉट सम शेयर. अब पार्टीशन हो गया इस एसेट का, because technically once the asset was transferred, shares. So they say when partition happens, उसके बाद इंडिविजुअल का तो वो इनकम खुद का हो गया, because now he has got that share back. But individual spouse को जो शेयर मिला, whatever the share individual spouse got from the partition, would income from that would also be clubbed in the hands of individual only, because it's like an indirect transfer to the spouse. पहले HUF को दिया, HUF को partition करा, फिर spouse को दे दिया, right? So in that case, whenever an HUF gets parted and the asset which was transferred without consideration to individual by individual to HUF, that parted asset में whatever spouse का share is there, उससे whatever income would come would go to individual hand only, would be clubbed in the hands of individual. Now this is a small technical point which you have to remember कि partition के time पे individual spouse को whatever the income is getting generated from that partition share would be clubbed in the hands of individual. Okay. And last topic here is cross transfer. Just say you can expect a question coming also. Let's understand what is cross transfer. Cross transfers matlab, instead of making it a direct transfer so that you do not get covered under the provision of section 64, you make a transfer in a way that it does not show that you have made it directly to the transferee but to some other person. So, ab kya kiya? Mr. A very well know that if he gives shares directly to Mrs. A, so clubbing provisions apply ho jayenge on the share income. So what he did, he said, let's give it to my friend Mr. B. तो उन्होंने क्या किया, वो शेयर्स मिस्टर बी को दे दी. इससे डिविडेंड आ रहा है 10,000 रुपीज पर एनम. एंड मिसेस बी, उन्होंने कहा कि मिसेस बी ने भी तो तुझे कुछ गिफ्ट देना था, राइट? सो इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट गिविंग टू यू, बिकॉज इफ Mrs. B also gives some gift to Mr. B as a spouse without consideration, clubbing provisions would apply. So he said, give that gift to my wife. किसी को पता ही नहीं चलेगा कि gifting provisions के through maybe there would no taxability coming. So he said कि ऐसा करो, I'm giving shares in your name, इससे 10,000 का dividend आएगा, you give 1 lakh का FD in my wife's name. ठीक है, ओके. अब इससे मिसेस ए को क्या हो रहा है, 10,000 का इंटरेस्ट आ रहा है. कह रहे सेम इनकम मिल रहा है, 10,000 का इंटरेस्ट आ रहा है. सो हुआ क्या, व्हाट दिस अरेंजमेंट इज जस्ट डन टू फूल द अथॉरिटीज, दैट इंस्टेड ऑफ मिस्टर ए डायरेक्टली गिविंग शेयर्स टू मिसेस ए, ही सेड दैट यू टू द थर्ड पार्टी दैट यू गिव some other shares to us, and whatever income is getting generated, we can adjust it through, as in utna hi income you can get it from us, like a cross transfer. Instead of directly transferring to the spouse, he has transferred it to someone else and at the same time have received some other asset in the name of spouse. So this arrangement is again just done to fool the authorities. कि अगर यहाँ पे ये अरेंजमेंट है, दे विल नॉट से कि क्लबिंग प्रोविजन है, मिस्टर ए ने मिस्टर बी को दिया, क्लबिंग प्रोविजन नहीं कहलाएगा. सिंपल, कोई नहीं, गिफ्ट दे दिया. अब उसमें गिफ्टिंग में वैसे टैक्सेबिलिटी नहीं है, बिकॉज गिफ्टिंग में टैक्स, क्लबिंग में गिफ्टिंग में टैक्सेबिलिटी एज पर क्लबिंग प्रोविजन ओनली इन द हैंड्स ऑफ स्पाउस, स्पाउस इनकम, स्पाउस और सन्स वाइफ, राइट? अदरवाइज कहीं पे भी फ्रेंड का देखा कि क्लबिंग आएगा? नहीं देखा. डिड यू सी एनीवेयर दैट फ्रेंड्स इनकम हैज टू बी क्लब्ड और सन्स इनकम हैज टू बी क्लब्ड? नो, until unless वो revocable transfer वाला केस है, right? So in this situation, to cover up situations like this, that where the transactions are molded in a way that ultimately the asset is getting Mr. A and Mr. B, and Mr. B is not the spouse or son's wife, so clubbing provisions would not apply, because it was done only to avoid the transfer to the spouse directly. Okay, it was done only to avoid the transfer to the spouse directly. So how would you know a cases of cost transfer? When you are transferring it to someone else, and in return there is also a different benefit or different asset coming in, that is a case of cross transfer. And cross transfer case mein, my friends, clubbing provisions apply. Okay. Or last part, whenever I'm saying income would club, I also mean losses would be clubbed also. So kal ko capital gain is getting clubbed, capital loss would also get clubbed. So loss ka benefit would also go to the assessee. Clear? So back to where we started. What did we learn abhi clubbing provisions mein? Clubbing provisions are there from section 60 to 64, whereby first 2 applies to anyone, which is transfer of income without transfer of asset. If I'm transferring just the income and the asset is still with me, clubbing provisions would apply in my hand. Or if the asset is transferred but it is a revocable transfer, then clubbing provisions would apply in my hand. Whatever the asset is, whatever the income is being generated by the asset would be clubbed. But revocable transfer may, if it is not revocable at the lifetime of the beneficiary, or it is revocable after the death of the transferee, then clubbing provisions does not apply. Individual के case में clubbing can happen of spouse income, of son's wife income, of minor income. Spouse income में remuneration can be clubbed if it is being received from a concern in which the assessee or the relatives has substantial interest. But if it is received because of some technical skills, professional qualification, then clubbing would not applicable. If an income is getting generated from an asset which is transferred to spouse without consideration or without adequate consideration, other than for agreement to live apart, it would be clubbed. But here asset is other than house property, because house property mein deemed ownership applies as per section 27. Or if income is getting generated to any person and that income would be used for the benefit of the spouse, then also the income would be clubbed from an asset which is transferred without consideration or adequate consideration. Minor ke case mein all income gets clubbed in the hands of the parent who has a higher income with an exemption of 1,500 per annum per child. But exception is income which would not be clubbed, which is coming from skills, manual work, or in case of disabled person, disabled minor. Income from son's wife may be same income coming from an asset which is transferred to son's wife without consideration or without adequate consideration would be clubbed, or any asset transferred to any person without consideration, but the income from that would be used for the benefit of son's wife would be clubbed. Also, cross transfers would be clubbed, and when I say income, losses would also be clubbed. So that's all for clubbing provisions. Let's take some doubts. Anyone has any doubts? Madhav, in which question you are saying? कौन से क्वेश्चन में? Okay. So I hope clubbing provisions are clear. बहुत simple है. Again and again I'm saying maybe a business wala question can come, but otherwise there would be just single adjustment which might come from this. So next time when you pick up this chapter for revision purpose, do it thoroughly, and as you can complete this chapter from left, right, everywhere in maximum 1 hour. And next time when you will revise it, honest to God, you will not take more than 10 to 15 minutes in revising it. So focus on the main provisions, remember the exceptions, and you're good to go. Okay. So now after break, we'll start with setup and carry forward. That is also a very interesting one. So let's meet you in next 10 minutes. Thank you. So now we proceed with our next part, which is aggregation of income, set of carry forward of losses. But before that, there are some questions which I would like to take. भूमिका, no, यहाँ पे you are technically wrong. Income अगर ट्रांसफर हो रहा है without transferring of asset, section 60 applies. So that can be to anyone. That can be to spouse, that can be to son, that can be to friend. You have not transferred the asset. Without consideration, with consideration का तो question ही नहीं है. You have not transferred the asset. Okay. But now coming to spouse. Spouse को if house property is getting transferred, section 27 applies and the transferor remains the owner as per deeming provisions. Now since he is the deemed owner, जैसे ओनर के पर्सपेक्टिव पे हाउस प्रॉपर्टी के टैक्स, सिमिलरली ओनर पर्सपेक्टिव से हाउस प्रॉपर्टी विद टैक्स. बट इफ the spouse has received any other asset other than house property without consideration or without advocate consideration, then in that case, whatever income that asset is getting generated would get clubbed as per your section 64. Correct, Aisha? If husband gives cash which is invested in the business and loss is incurred, that loss will also be clubbed in the husband's income. Absolutely right. Bhumika, is it clear? So now let's start with the next branch today, which is set off and carry forward of losses. Guys, whenever you are talking about your computation of income, you have to follow a certain step. First, computation of income begins with sorry guys. So the computation of income starts with, first you have to compute the income under various heads. Obviously, first you have to compute the residential, determine the residential status, compute the scope of total income, and then you take under various heads. Various heads, once you've computed the income, then you apply the clubbing provisions. Correct. Now, clubbing provisions करने के बाद, there's a concept called aggregation of income, set off and carry forward of losses. उसको करने के बाद only you come to your gross total income. From this gross total income, what we will start learning from the next class is that you have to apply certain deductions. But friends, gross total income पे आने से पहले अब जो ये last step है, aggregation, set off and carry forward, what this step actually is. Let's understand that. Aggregation मतलब you are adding your income. वो जो आपने पढ़ा था ना section 69 वाला जो undisclosed income वाला, उनको भी you have to include it in your total income. That is called aggregation. Okay, they do not go specifically under other heads. They are aggregated with your other incomes. Now we come to set off and carry forward of losses. Now, what is this term set off and carry forward of losses is what we have to understand. सबसे पहले, the focus would be on losses which happens during the year which you are incurring during the year, and then losses which are incurred during the year are carry forwarded. सबसे पहले you will never use the word carry forward. You will first use the word which are incurred during the year. उसको you will set off. Set off मतलब adjust it with the profits. If the losses are much higher that they cannot be adjusted, they are carry forwarded. They are carry forwarded to the next years. To the next year मतलब to the next assessment year. So if I talk about previous year 22-23, so whatever income and whatever losses has happened during the year, you will set it off, and then you will carry it forward to the next year. Next year matlab previous year 23-24. The process of carrying it forward, the previous year 23-24 perspective se bolu, the losses are now brought forward. जैसे अकाउंट्स में यूज करते थे कैरी फॉरवर्ड, नाउ नेक्स्ट ईयर वो लॉसेस आर ब्रॉट फॉरवर्ड, एंड जब वंस दे ब्रॉट फॉरवर्डेड दे आर देन एडजस्टेड टू ब्रॉट फॉरवर्ड एंड सेट ऑफ बस. एंड दिस इज हाउ द स्टोरी गोज. अब नेक्स्ट ईयर भी लॉसेस ज्यादा है इनकम से, so they would be carry forwarded to the next year, and then again in the previous year 24-25 these would be carried forwarded to the previous year 24-25, 24-25 may brought forward them, adjust it, and then you will move ahead, and this will go on and on till the time losses are properly set off or they lapse. Lapse the word I have used, or they lapse. So first focus हमेशा होगा during the year. During the year matlab when the losses are incurred. First focus would be on understanding कि when the losses are incurred during the year, what you have to do. So first of all, the friends, अगर घर पे कुछ problem होता है, if you incur loss, so you discuss it within the house, as in within the head. So the first thing which happens is intra-head adjustment. Intra-head, within the same head adjustment. Within same head. क्योंकि हमेशा सबसे पहले हम सेम हेड सेम सोर्स के पास जाते हैं. सेम सोर्स मतलब सेम हेड ऑफ इनकम. So suppose I'm talking about house property. एक house property से loss है, I will go and adjust it with other house property का income. If I'm talking about business, one business has loss, I will adjust it with the income of other business if I have. If I have. So the first thing is intra-head adjustment of the losses which are incurred during the year. Then you go to other people, as in other heads, inter-head. अब suppose house property में loss है, but I have salary income, then I will adjust it with that particular salary income. If I have house property में income, but I have business का net loss after intra-head adjustment, then I will adjust it with the house property ka income. This is how we move. Now, it can happen that other heads are not sufficient enough to absorb the loss or to set off the loss. Then what will happen? Then carry forward of losses happen. कि उसको आप next year लेके जाओगे. You will take them to next year. Now, once you carry forward it, you can only set off in the same head. Then you cannot go to different heads. Set off on the same head except unabsorbed depreciation, which will come. ठीक है? So ये process को समझना is very important to understand set off and carry forward. And this process is clear. Next is just 5 minutes के section which we'll be able to cover up very quickly. यहाँ तक कोई doubt? So, good. Next perspective से आप now understand when we talk about intra-head adjustment, what do we mean? So section 70 says that you can make intra-head adjustments for the losses incurred during the year. मतलब house property loss 1 with house property 1 का loss can be set off with house property 2 का income. कोई इशू नहीं, बट यहाँ पे some exceptions you have to take care of. There are some 5-6 exceptions which we'll be covering, 4 actually. First exception, which is specified business ka loss can only be adjusted with specified income. Specified business का income. Specified business कौन से friends? 35 AD वाले, करेक्ट. सो 35 AD वाले बिजनेसेस का लॉस, अब उसमें नेचुरली लॉस आएगा ही, बिकॉज यू आर अलाउड टू टेक कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर का डिडक्शन फ्रॉम 35 AD वाला बिजनेसेस, राइट. सो नेचुरली इन इनिशियल ईयर और व्हेन कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर इज हाई, देयर वुड बी लॉस. सो गवर्नमेंट सेज दैट यू कैन नॉट एडजस्ट दैट लॉस विद योर अदर बिजनेस इनकम. यहाँ पे इंट्रा हेड एडजस्टमेंट हो रहा है गाइस. इंट्रा हेड मतलब सेम हेड पे फोकस करना प्लीज. So you cannot adjust it with your other heads income, other business income, because then the idea is defeated now. So उस हिसाब से तो you can claim whatever capital expenditure you want to claim, and you can adjust it with any business profits or any other business profits. So no, specified business loss has to be only be adjusted with specified business income. Vice versa मैम, specified business नहीं है, non specified business loss है, उसको specified business income से कर सकते हैं, definitely कर सकते हैं. Suppose I have a loss from textile business, I can adjust it with my hotel star, which is a 3-star category hotel ka income. Yes, I can do that. Whatever is written on the screen is an exception. The vice versa of it, you can do it. Okay, so specified loss only with specified business income. Similarly, speculative loss. Speculative business loss only with speculative business income. तो अब आपको इंट्राडे में लॉस हो रहा है तो उसे इंट्राडे इनकम से ही एडजस्ट कर सकते हो. यू कैन नॉट एडजस्ट इट विद योर अदर इनकम, और यू कैन नॉट एडजस्ट इट विद योर एफएनओ इनकम, बिकॉज एफएनओ इनकम आर नॉट योर speculative income. So speculative business loss only with speculative business income. Clear? Next is very important, long-term capital loss only with long-term capital gain. Long-term capital loss only with long-term capital gain. Reason is very simple. Long-term capital loss का interest का tax rate is lower, and other capital gain or short-term capital gain generally gets taxed at individual tax rate. So if lower loss would defeat the profit which is getting higher taxed at a higher rate, it would not make an intent to the government, right? So that's why long-term capital loss only with long-term capital gain. Ma'am, short-term capital loss with long-term capital gain, definitely नहीं लिखा स्क्रीन में तो कर सकते. So specified business, speculative business loss, long-term capital loss only with their respective income. उसके अलावा loss from owning and maintaining race horses, only from income coming from owning and maintaining race horses. अब income कैसे होगा? When you win something, when your horse win. Loss from owning and maintaining race horses, the horses, ये normal horse तो नहीं है. To maintain, there's a lot of expenditure goes in, right? So वो वाला expenditure को you can adjust with your income from the owning and maintaining race horses. Got it? These are the 4 adjustments which you have to take, 4 exceptions which you have to take care of while you are doing intra-head adjustments. यहाँ तक कोई डाउट? परफेक्ट. नेक्स्ट आगे बढ़ते हैं टू अंडरस्टैंड इंटर-हेड एडजस्टमेंट. सेम ईयर के लॉसेस की बात हो रही है गाइस. अब क्या हुआ? Now the losses are not sufficient enough to get adjusted within the same head. वहां पे multiple sources का income नहीं है, maybe, और income है and they are not that much that they can absorb the loss. So once you have done your intra-head adjustment, we move to your inter-head. Section 71. with same exceptions in mind जो इंट्रा हेड पे लग रही है उसके additional what exceptions are there, you can do inter head adjustment. You can adjust your house property loss with your salary income, your business loss with your house property income, your other sources का loss with your business income, you can do it because it is your income for the year जो आपको adjust करना है. But पहले intra-head करना is important. You cannot directly jump to inter-head adjustment. Okay, so intra-head करके whatever losses come, you go to inter-head adjustment. Now inter-head adjustment में with the same exception that specified business loss को you can only adjust it with specified business income. That means you cannot adjust specified business loss with any other head. Speculative business loss, so you can adjust with only speculative business income. That naturally means you cannot adjust it with any other head. Long-term capital loss, so you can only adjust with long-term capital gain income. That again means you cannot adjust with any other head. So with those exceptions in mind, what further exceptions you have to take care of is loss from business. The loss from business cannot be adjusted with salary income. So even if you have salary, even if you have business and there is a loss, you cannot adjust it from salary income. So suppose I have a salary of 10 lakhs and I have a business loss of 4 lakhs. I cannot adjust it. वो 4 lakh को मेरे को किसी और head के income से करना होगा और I would go to the next year. Next is short-term capital loss. Short-term capital loss can not be adjusted other than short-term capital gain and long-term capital gain. Short-term capital gain and long-term capital gain ही खाली use हो सकता है to do and to adjust the short-term capital loss. See, long-term capital loss only with long-term capital gain, but short-term capital loss में खाली intra-head adjustment is allowed, inter-head adjustment is not allowed. And one more thing, house property loss, be it coming from self-occupied property, be it coming from your income from let-out property, house property loss can be adjusted with other heads. There is no restriction on it, but only to extent of 2 lakhs. So if I have house property loss net of 4 lakhs, I can, or say 5 lakhs, I can only adjust 2 lakhs with any head of my choice. Remaining 3 lakhs would go to the next year. So house property loss के adjustment में as such restriction नहीं है, but एक ceiling limit है. The maximum loss which you can adjust is 2 lakhs. So that being said, the question comes, ma'am, salary का loss हम किसी से adjust कर सकते हैं? First of all, guys, salaries में there would be no loss. So उसको कुछ question ही नहीं आता और फिर just मैम house property loss को salary से कर सकते हैं? Yes. If I go headwise, house property loss को you can adjust with salary, but to the extent of 2 lakhs. मैम business loss को house property से कर सकते हैं? Business loss can be done from house property, no limit. Business loss cannot be done with salary. बिजनेस लॉस को अदर सोर्सेस से कर सकते हैं, यस. बिजनेस लॉस को कैपिटल गेन से कर सकते हैं, यस. कैपिटल लॉस को आप किसी और हेड से नहीं कर सकते, बट वाइस वर्सा फ्रेंड्स इज अलाउड. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying, that whatever is written on the screen is only an exception. The other part does not say that this is to be done or this is not to be done. Presumed basis पे nothing has to be done. Okay? कोई doubt? अभी question, let's do a question to understand it. बहुत easy है चैप्टर, very easy. On the screen, you have seen Mr. A is aged 35 years. Submits the following particulars pertaining to assessment year 23-24. Income from salary computed matlab after 50,000 deduction, loss from self-occupied property, loss from let-out property, business loss, and bank interest FD receipt. Okay, now you have to compute the total income of Mr. A for the assessment year 23-24, assuming he is not opting for 115 BSc. Now, friends, you will say कि मैम पहले सैलरी से एडजस्ट करना है और पहले बैंक इंटरेस्ट से करना है. It is totally up to you. It is totally up to you. Whatever head you want to adjust it with that. But remember, business loss cannot be adjusted with salary. So it's better I adjust my house property loss with salary so that other incomes can be used to adjust business loss. So एक बारी फटाफट solve this question and then we look to the answer. Quickly. ठीक है, आ गया. Simple how this person did. सबसे पहले तो हाउस प्रॉपर्टी में there is a net loss of 220. Okay, 20,000 friends definitely would be carry forwarded. Maximum 2 lakhs can be adjusted. So this person adjusted with the salary of 4 lakhs. This 2 lakh loss. ठीक है. Income from other sources में से 80,000 में से he adjusted the business loss. Remaining business loss would be carry forwarded and remaining house property loss would be carry forwarded. Total income would be 2 lakhs with no deductions, and then gross total income is my total income. Got it? You have to write it as note what you have done as an adjustment. That remaining 20,000 is carry forwarded to the next assessment year. Similarly, remaining 20,000, the business loss will be carry forwarded to the next assessment year because it cannot be adjusted with salary income. Sudhanshu, clear? Very good. Up the story starts ki ma'am, what if we cannot adjust it? How would this carry forward happen? Now the story is about carry forwarding. How do I carry forward it and how do I adjust it? Let's start that. One second, friend. Okay. Taking out some questions. On the screen, everyone. Yes. So, abhi tak kya tha? Section 70 talked about intra-head adjustment. Section 71 talks about inter-head adjustment with exceptions. Now, once the carry forward provisions apply, there are different sections. Section 71B say we start from house property. Then section 72 is for normal business. Then section 73 is for speculative business or specified business. ऐसे करते करते there are sections which we have for carry forwarding. Now, once I read through the section, I realized that there is no other sources ka section for carry forwarding provisions. So can I say that for other sources, if you have loss, first of all, कैसे loss होगा? Suppose I have income from renting out of machinery. Okay, that will go in other sources. But I had incurred a lot of repair expenses, insurance, depreciation. So the sources may loss it. Other sources for loss can be adjusted with any head of income, right? But if after adjustment there is still loss, you cannot carry forward it. Because उसका कोई carry forward का कोई provision ही नहीं है. There is no section specifically for carry forward of losses of other sources. So if the act does not allow me, how can I do it? So other sources का loss cannot be carried forward. कोई अगर आपको बोले ना कि other sources का loss carry forward हो जाएगा, no. If you have income during the year, it can be adjusted definitely if it is not falling under the exception of section 70 and 71. But beyond that, it cannot be carried forwarded. Now coming to house property loss. So carry forward of house property loss, salary में तो loss आएगा नहीं. So now let's go headwise. So carry forward of house property loss is under section 71B. 71B talks about that the house property loss can be carry forwarded and adjusted with house property income. So यहाँ पे there is no ceiling limit. So in the example, if I have house property loss in the preceding year of 6 lakhs, which has to be carry forwarded. अब इस साल I will adjust it with only house property income after carrying it forward. If I have the income after carrying it forward, I will adjust it. If I don't have the income, I will take it to the next year. So suppose on the facts which are given to you on the screen, previous year 22-23 में house property 1 and house property 2. ऐसे let's move. इसमें से there was a loss of 1,50,000. There was a loss of 4 lakhs. No other income. Previous year, 23-24 may we come. House property 1 is still at a loss of 50,000. House property 2 is at a loss of 3 lakhs. Previous year, 24-25 may house property 1 is now in a position of income of say 4 lakhs. And house property 2 is still in a loss of 1,50,000. Okay, all the figures are in your screen. Now, previous year 25-26 पे भी आ जाते हैं. Both are sufficiently enough giving 8 lakhs का यहाँ पे house property income 1 and यहाँ पे 2 lakhs का house property income 2. Now let's go year by year, friends. ध्यान से. And this example 1 understood for house 3,000 and 4 lakh. Total loss for previous year 22-23 is 5,50,000. Correct? Carry forwarded next year. Next year we lost 3,50,000 ka. Okay. Total 5,50,000 plus 350, 9 lakhs carry forwarded to next year. Now, इस साल there is some intra-head adjustment का scope. तो सबसे पहले I'll make an intra-head adjustment in previous year 24-25. 4 lakh minus 1,50,000 comes to 250, right? Now 250 say I can adjust the brought forward loss of the previous 2 years. So सबसे पहले I will adjust it from the immediate or the earliest assessment year का loss. So 250 में से I'll adjust the loss of the previous year 22-23, which is 2,50,000. So अब कुछ नहीं बचा. So 3 lakh is now being carry forwarded, which belongs to previous year 22-23, and 3,50,000 is carry forwarded, which belongs to previous year 23-24. Is it clear? Now, next year में there is luckily 10 lakh का income. Okay, now 10 lakh में से सबसे पहले I will adjust it. The priority is always to the immediate or the earliest year loss. 10, not immediate or the actually the earliest year loss. 10 lakh में से पहले 3 lakhs would be adjusted, 7 lakh, फिर 7 lakh में से 3,50,000 would be adjusted. So remaining 350 would be taxable. Is it clear? Anyone has any doubt here? Suppose you can make a note of it first. You can take a screenshot, or you can take a photo of it, or you can copy it. ठीक है, अब सपोज एक ट्विस्ट लेके आते हैं इसमें. When in previous year 25-26, along with house property, there was also business loss of that same year of say 2,50,000. So सबसे पहले, guys, I will not starting do the adjustment of the brought forward loss again, inter, then the adjustment of the brought forward loss. तो अभी 10 लाख की इनकम में से सबसे पहले दिस 250 का सेम ईयर का बिजनेस लॉस would be adjusted. So minus 250. Now 7,50,000 is there. The 750 में से first 3 lakh would be adjusted. And then the 3,50,000 of the next year, which is next to the earliest year, would be adjusted. 1 lakh would be the income which would be taxable. Is it clear? ये example कहीं किसी book में नहीं मिलेगा, so you can make note of it. Correct. कविता, earliest lost को adjust करना है. अब उसका reason क्या है? I will tell you that reason also. चले आगे. चल. Now, why this reason of earliest loss has to be adjusted? So we were talking about section 71B, where I told you all of these now are the provisions of carry forwarding. Carry forward करके फिर set off करना. Where I told you once the loss is carry forwarded, it would be adjusted with the same head of income. And the maximum time it can be carry forwarded, there is a restriction that you can carry forward a loss from the year of incurrence, from the year when it is incurred, to the maximum of 8 assessment years. The maximum of 8 assessment years. So, matlab 8 times you are allowed to carry forward that loss. So the loss just incurred in the previous year 22-23 would be carried forwarded first assessment year, second assessment year, third assessment year, 26, 26, 27, 27, 28, 28, 29. And 30, 30. Yes. So till the maximum of your assessment year 31, 32, you can carry it forward, which is, these are your previous year. कौन सा loss जो previous year 22-23 में incurred हुआ, which incurred in previous year 22-23, which is this, which was not carry forwarded, 5,50,000, which was not adjusted with any other head. 5,50,000 को maximum I can carry forward it to adjustment till previous year 30-31 or assessment year 31-32. उसके बाद friends it would lapse. Lapse मतलब if not adjusted, there would be no further loss to be carried forwarded for previous year 22-23. So now suppose in all these scenarios, if I do not have sufficient income from house property to adjust this loss, then the last year would be previous year 30/31. Uske baad this 550 or whatever the amount is left from this previous year loss would be lapsed. It cannot be carry forwarded further. It would be time bar. Okay, got it? So that's why earliest year के loss को सबसे पहले adjust करना is very important. Once you have income after intra-head and inter-head adjustment, earliest year का loss should be set it off. There is no choice in it. आज की utilities etc. सब automatically ऐसे built है that only earliest year loss is adjusted first. Okay, उसके बाद it would lapse. हर एक लॉस का 8 years start from the years of incurrence. Previous year जिस year incur हुआ उसके बाद से 8 assessment years. Okay. Got it? Any doubt इसमें? So with the restriction of 2 lakhs of house property is not there in the brought forward losses. Step by step, inter-head adjustment में only the 2 lakh limit is there. Once it is carry forwarded, you can only adjust it with house property income and there is no limit to वहां पे inter-head adjustment हो रही है नहीं हो रही, right? There is no problem. वो in carry forward होगी, it's just happening in the same head. Only thing you have to remember is 8 years का condition. Clear, Kavita? Chalo. So back to the section. House property loss can be adjusted only with house property income on carry forwarding, and that too it can be adjusted for the maximum of 8 years, starting from the year next to the year when the assessment, when the loss was incurred. And it is mandatory or not to file the return within due date is one new thing you have to remember. Due date में return filing is not mandatory to carry forward this loss. बाकी सारे loss को carry forward करने के लिए important thing is that you have to file your return within the due date, which is now 31st July for assessment year 23/24. If you will not file the return within the due date, certain losses cannot be carried forwarded, but house property is not one of them. Next is section 72, which talks about normal business. It talks that normal business का कोई loss है, it can be adjusted with business income on carry forwarding. On carrying forwarding, only same head guys, और वो इंट्रा हेड एंड इंटर हेड के एक्सेप्शंस याद रखना बस. अब normal business loss when carry forwarded would only be adjusted with business income. That business income can be speculative business income, specified business income, does not matter. Only business income, and the loss can be carried forwarded only to the maximum of 8 assessment years. And return filing is mandatory to carry forward the loss of business. Next is specified business loss. Specified business loss, once carry forwarded, can only be adjusted with specified business income. And specified business loss के लिए friends एक बहुत बड़ा relief है that there is no time limit. No time limit for carry forwarding. You can carry forward it to indefinite period. There is no time limit for carry forwarding the specified business loss, not speculative, specified business loss. Next, section 73A. Sorry, section 73A is specified business. Section 73 is speculative business. Speculative business loss can again be carry forwarded and adjusted only with speculative business income. But unlike other losses here, the maximum times you can carry forward is up to 4 assessment years. not 8, not indefinite, 4 assessment years only. And again, here also return filing is mandatory to carry forward the losses. So now if we do one question, abhi we have just done business, house property, carry forward losses adjustment. Now if you can see on your screen, Mr. B, a resident individual, furnishes the following particulars for previous year 22-23. Income from salary computed, income from house property, income from non-speculative business, income from speculative business, and short-term capital loss and long-term capital gain under section 112. What is the total income chargeable for tax for assessment year 23-24, assuming he does not opt for section 115 BSc? Now, सबसे पहले guys, इंट्रा-हेड एडजस्टमेंट हाउस प्रॉपर्टी का तो कुछ है नहीं, बिजनेस में भी लॉस है, कैपिटल का भी लॉस है, लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन, शॉर्ट टर्म कैपिटल लॉस कैन बी एडजस्टेड विद लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन, yes. So the remaining 6,000 would be carry forwarded. Then और short term capital loss को बाकी 6,000 को you cannot make any inter-head adjustment. Coming to speculative business and non-speculative business. Speculative business का entire loss would be carry forwarded 4,000 because this cannot be adjusted with any other income except speculative business income. Non-speculative business का loss है 22,000. उसको भी अब देखते क्या करते, we don't have any other income. No, we don't have. Then house property का loss है 24,000, which we can adjust it with my salary income, and still here 21,000 is remaining, but this 21,000 का salary income cannot be adjusted with the speculative non-speculative business loss because inter-head adjustment का restriction है. So this 22,000 would also be carry forwarded. So 6,000 carry forwarded, 4,000 carry forwarded, 22,000 carry forwarded, and 45,000 minus 24,000, 21,000 is the income. Got it? और ये जो सब बोला है इसको नोट्स में लिखना नहीं भूलना गाइस. सिंपल है, अपने फंडा रखो क्लियर, आराम से सारे क्वेश्चन हो पाएगा. House property loss with only house property income on carry forwarding, there is no limit. सिर्फ inter-head adjustment का limit है guys house property loss में. ठीक है, now let's proceed with next type of loss for carry forwarding. These are all carry forwarding position. I'm saying again and again. Okay. Next is capital gain ka carry forward loss, as in capital loss. Section 74, friends. It tells that short-term capital loss and long-term capital loss, agar carry forward hota hai, what would happen? Once carry forwarded, short-term capital loss can be adjusted with only short-term capital gain or long-term capital gain. Matlab once carry forwarded, same head mein you can adjust it. And long-term capital loss ko you can on carry forwarding can only be adjusted with long-term capital gain. The maximum year through which you can carry forward the loss is again 8 assessment years, and return filing is mandatory to carry forward the loss within the due date. Next, 74A, which is loss from owning and winning or maintaining racehorses. ISPO again on carry forwarding, you can adjust it with only income from owning and maintaining racehorses. This can again be adjusted for maximum 4 assessment year. I can carry forwarded for maximum 4 assessment year, and return filing is mandatory within the due date to carry forward the loss. So now if I take an example here, on the screen, please. During the previous year 22-23, Mr. C has the following income and the brought forward losses given below. Short-term capital gain on sale of shares, long-term capital loss of assessment year 21-22, short-term capital loss of assessment year 22-23, and long-term capital gain under section 1-1. You have to compute the taxable income. First of all, current year ka intra-head adjustment is not required. 150 is my short-term capital gain and long-term capital gain is 75,000. Long-term capital loss का एक restriction है that it can be adjusted only with long-term capital gain even after carry forwarding. So this 75,000 may say I will adjust this 96,000, but अब long-term capital loss को I cannot adjust it with my STCG. So the remaining 21,000 would be carry forwarded for assessment year 21-22. And short-term capital gain, say I can adjust my short-term capital loss. So net 113 would be taxable as STCG, and long-term capital gain would not be taxable. Rather, long-term capital loss belonging to assessment year 21-22 for 21,000 would be carry forwarded. Got it? Anyone has any doubt? Guys, yes, no? लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन है, आप उससे नॉन स्पेकुलेटिव बिजनेस लॉस एडजस्ट कर सकते हो. येस यू कैन एडजस्ट इट, बट ओनली इफ दैट नॉन स्पेकुलेटिव बिजनेस लॉस इज ऑफ द सेम ईयर. इफ इट इज कैरी फॉरवर्डेड, तब गाइस ओनली इन within the head intra-head adjustment would be allowed. ठीक है? Yes, Kriti, this is the only session for 5th and 6th chapter, because these are simple yet important chapters. Loss for scientific research, very good, Mohammed, can be set off against other business income, including specified business income. Yes. See, loss from any business other than speculative and other than specified. Dono speculative, specified can be adjusted with any business. Can be adjusted with any business income. उसमें because of scientific research की वजह से loss आ रहा है, or because of any other expense loss आ रहा है, does not matter. Non-speculative business comes under PGBP, correct, Sudhanshu, and that is why it cannot be set off against salary. Any business income cannot be adjusted with salary. Any business loss cannot be adjusted with salary. Carry forward का तो clear provision है. Carry forward होने के बाद guys अपने ही head पे देखता है. Reason क्या है? आपने इंट्रा हेड एडजस्टमेंट कर लिया, इंटर हेड एडजस्टमेंट भी कर लिया। अब नहीं एडजस्ट हो रहा तो अपने ही घर पे रहो और घर का बात घर पे रखो। सिंपल, वंस यू कैन नॉट एडजस्ट इट इन द सेम ईयर in the incurrence of the loss with other heads, just carry forward it and adjust it within the same head, and remember those intra-head adjustment exceptions. That's it. अगर ये याद रखोगे, you will always do the correct adjustments. Anyone has any doubts? Perfect. Very good, Priyanka. Very good, Kamita. I'm coming to that. यहाँ तक कोई डाउट? ओके, नाउ एक अलग से सेक्शन है ऑफ अनअब्सॉर्ब्ड डेप्रिसिएशन। सॉरी, guys on the screen please. Unabsorbed depreciation, unabsorbed capital expenditure on scientific research and unabsorbed family planning. अब इस पे थोड़ा सा डिस्कशन करते हैं। So when I say loss from house business, I mean the pure loss other than unabsorbed depreciation. Because unabsorbed depreciation friend has a special section talking about section 32(2). ये TGBP से section flow हुआ है. It's not under my chapter of set off or carry forward. Now unabsorbed depreciation can be carry forwarded and set off for undefinite period, as in there is no limit, unlike business loss which has to be set off on carry forwarding within 8 assessment years. Unabsorbed depreciation can be set off for carry forwarded and set off for indefinite period. Plus, it can be adjusted on carry forwarding with any head except salary. So, अब suppose आपको question में दिया हुआ है previous year 22-23 का total business loss is 10 lakhs, out of which there's an unabsorbed depreciation of 4 lakhs. That means loss, business loss कितना है? 6 lakhs का. Total 10 lakhs का loss है. We are not saying that. But business loss is of 6 lakhs and unabsorbed depreciation is of 4 lakhs. So this business loss would be carry forwarded for the maximum of 8 assessment years, adjusted with only business income. But this 4 lakh can be carry forwarded to indefinite period and can be adjusted with any head of income. This is the only exception here on carry forwarding. Can be adjusted with any head of income, but not salary. So जो भी business loss हुआ उसको हमने break कर दिया in unabsorbed depreciation की वजह से क्या loss आ रहा है उसको अलग कर दिया, और other than depreciation as in the actual business loss क्या आ रहा है. Business loss 8 assessment years, unabsorbed depreciation indefinite period. If anything has an indefinite period adjustment, that means उसको importance end में दिया जाएगा when it comes to order of set off. Order of set off. So this is the logic which gets applied when we talk about order of set off, which is not specifically coming from any section, but with the understanding of all provisions together. So सबसे पहले what you will do, you will first of all set off the current year depreciation. वहाँ पे तो there is no option. करंट ईयर का ऐसा नहीं है आप करंट ईयर का करने से मना कर दोगे, नहीं. सबसे पहले करंट ईयर लॉसेस, करंट ईयर डेप्रिसिएशन, फिर इंटर हेड एडजस्टमेंट, देन ब्रॉट फॉरवर्ड लॉसेस, then unabsorbed depreciation, then scientific research and family planning in any order. capital expenditure on scientific research and capital expenditure on family planning in specific order, because these are indefinite period के लिए. So considering unabsorbed depreciation, what would be the order? सबसे पहले करंट ईयर पे फोकस करना है, करंट ईयर के लॉस, करंट ईयर का डेप्रिसिएशन, करंट ईयर के इंटरहेड एडजस्टमेंट लॉस. उसके बाद ब्रॉड फॉरवर्ड लॉसेस पे फोकस करना है. ब्रॉड फॉरवर्ड लॉसेस में अनएब्सॉर्ब्ड डेप्रिसिएशन डिफरेंट, अदर देन अनएब्सॉर्ब्ड डेप्रिसिएशन दैट इज ब्रॉड फॉरवर्ड लॉस डिफरेंट. फिर ब्रॉड फॉरवर्ड लॉस को पहले यू हैव टू गिव द weightage, and that too only with brought forward loss would be adjusted only with business income. Then unabsorbed depreciation अगर सब एडजस्ट हो गया, कोई इनकम नहीं बचा, कोई हाउस प्रॉपर्टी का कोई लॉस नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, then unabsorbed depreciation को set off with house property का income if you have, or business income if you have, or any capital gain income if you have. But at the end, because इसको आपको टेंशन नहीं है ना कि ये लैप्स हो जाएगा, ये तो चलता ही जाएगा till the time you are in SSC, you can adjust it. So there is no problem on or no worrying about loss getting lapse. ठीक है. So इसके basis पे if I do one question here, or let's see what the illustration says. The illustration has given us few things, but before moving on to illustration, just one more thing. You have to remember that there can never be losses from lotteries, from card games, from puzzles, etc. उसमें कभी loss नहीं आएगा. Only income gets tagged at a flat rate of 30%, which you have seen as casual income. So उसका कभी भी loss you don't have to take it. Number one. Number two, in income say you cannot adjust any other losses also. Even if it goes under other sources, you cannot adjust any losses from your casual income, which are taxed at a rate of flat 30%. No loss adjustment from casual income. No loss matlab no loss. Okay, remember that. Last thing which you have to remember in this set of carry forward wala, even if you discontinue your businesses, even if the businesses are not going for 8 assessment years or till the time period the losses have to be carry forwarded before they get lapsed, still you can adjust the business loss. Running a business is not important. Having a business income from any other source is important. Okay, to adjust it. So same business say adjust hona is not important. You can have multiple businesses, and even if the loss is of a business which is discontinued, still you can adjust. Still you can adjust it. Okay. So this is all from set of part. Now let's quickly take a question and then back to the summary. There's an income from salaries, which is 1,50,000. Income from speculation business, income from non-speculation business, normal business. उसमें लॉस है 40,000 का, शॉर्ट टर्म कैपिटल गेन है 80,000 का, लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल लॉस है ऑफ असेसमेंट ईयर 21, 22, 30,000. लेट्स डिस्कस इट क्विकली. 5 मिनट ज्यादा हो गए, बट टेक 2 minutes and let's discuss this. But I want you to practice first. Apply your brain. वेरी गुड भूमिका. तो यहाँ पे स्पेकुलेशन बिजनेस के इनकम से यू कैन एडजस्ट इजीली योर स्पेकुलेशन बिजनेस का लॉस. कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, 20,000 नेट रह गया. शॉर्ट टर्म कैपिटल गेन है, बट लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल लॉस का एक कैरी फॉरवर्डेड तो है, बट कैरी फॉरवर्डेड के साथ यू हैव टू रिमेंबर दैट इंटर हेड एडजस्टमेंट वाला एक्सेप्शन, सो दिस अगेन वुड बी कैरी फॉरवर्डेड टू द नेक्स्ट ईयर. 80,000 taxable, 20,000 taxable, 150 taxable, and इसमें से 20 taxable. So 150 plus 20 plus 80 plus 20 would be your total income, which is coming to 270. Any doubts? बाकी सब reason you would put it in your working notes. Remember that. Okay. Now to the few questions. Very good, Sudhanshu. Question says, ma'am, what is the reason that why business losses are not allowed to be adjusted against salary? It's just with the intention that a person is already having a salary's proper income. वो कल को कोई भी, अब suppose I have a salary income, okay, which by default gets taxed always, with no chances of evasion. मैं कल को कोई भी unnecessary का business loss दिखा दूं just to avoid tax on my salary. That's why there is a restriction of adjusting the salary tax or the salary income or the salary profit is the wrong word from the business loss, because the person unnecessary business loss को inflate करके अपने employer को बोले that I have business losses, do not deduct tax on salary. That would be wrong from the implementation perspective. Next, when an individual transfer cash to spouse for investing in business, in this case, transferred cash be clubbed in the hands of individual. Mohammed, in this case, transferring provisions are getting applied because cash is also an asset which is transferred, right? Transferred cash be clubbing provision, matlab transferred cash की वजह से the capital contribution which we saw in the question of Vishal and Vishali, उससे whatever income is getting, that has to be clubbed. Please, whenever you are writing it, be very careful. Do not club the asset. Do not club that in the house property would be clubbed. No, the answer is income from house property would be clubbed. Similarly, in your case, income from that transferred cash, which would be profits, would be clubbed. So towards the quick revision of your set of part, we understood that setup and carry forward of losses are very important before you compute your gross total income. Set off and carry forward and set off of carry forward losses happens first with the present year losses. Present year losses may first you do intra-head adjustment and then inter-head adjustment. Keeping in mind the exceptions, once those are done and still the losses prevail, they are carry forwarded. And unlike unabsorbed depreciation, all these losses are adjusted in the respective head of income only, keeping in mind the intra-head adjustments. There is a restrictions once the losses are carry forwarded. There is a time lapse which you have to take care of, and certain provision for return filing within due date has to be taken care of to carry forward and set off the losses. About inter-head adjustment, the exceptions are you cannot adjust loss from speculative business, loss from long-term capital gain, loss from specified business, or loss from maintaining and owning racehorses with any other income except the income of these respective losses. Inter-head adjustment, once you move on, keeping in mind these adjustments, you cannot adjust business loss with salary income. You cannot adjust capital gain loss with any income. But that being said, any income can be adjusted with capital gain. Any loss from other incomes can be adjusted with capital gain. Loss from house property can be adjusted only to the extent of 2 lakhs. On carry forwarding, remember house property, business loss, normal business loss, and your capital loss can be adjusted only with their respective income with intra-head adjustment in mind. ऐसा नहीं है कि carry forward करने के बाद I can adjust a speculative business loss with a non-speculative business income. No, वहाँ पे intra-head adjustment still prevail करेगा. Intra-head exceptions would also prevail. But remember, the maximum loss which you can carry forward is for 8 assessment years from the year when the losses incurred. For specified business, there is no time limit. For speculative business and for your losses from owning and maintaining resources, it is 4 assessment years. Okay. Unabsorbed depreciation can be carried forwarded to an undefinite period and should be adjusted in the last, because it can be adjusted with any other head also on being carried forwarded except salary. Got it? Anyone has any doubts? Yes, Mohammed, any diversion of income would be clubbed in the hands of individual. So Kavita, HF partition में ये simple है. Not all property of HF partition में whatever spouse का share comes would be clubbed. ऐसा नहीं है. If individual transfers a property to HUF, clubbing provisions apply on the income coming from that property if it is transferred without advocate consideration or without consideration. Okay, so till the time it is HF property and the individual has transferred it, the clubbing provisions would apply. अब वो partition हो गया. Partition में the property gets divided among members. Now individual को भी कुछ share मिला होगा, individual spouse को भी, as a member she must have also got or he must have also got that share. Now individual and individual spouse, individual का share तो वापस है, individual spouse का share से whatever income is getting, it would also be clubbed in the individual hand only. Why? Because it would be said like an indirect transfer कि पहले HF को किया, फिर partition कर दिया, partition से spouse को दे दिया, spouse से ultimately आपने indirect transfer कर दिया. So that's why partition पे whatever spouse is getting from the property of the HUF, which was transferred ultimately by individual without any consideration on that partition property, whatever income is coming to the spouse would be clubbed in the hands of individual. Okay. And cross transfer का concept is कि if X is giving a gift to Mrs. Y and in a way a same gift or a same transaction is happening without consideration by Mr. Y to Mrs. X, then in that case whatever Mrs. X is getting would be clubbed in the hands of Mr. X, and whatever Mrs. Y is getting would be clubbed in the hands of Mr. Y, because the transfers were made in a way that they appear not to be attracted in clubbing provisions, but they are formed in a way to give the benefits indirectly to the respective spouses or to the respective section where clubbing provisions are applied. And just to avoid them, the transfer has happened in such a way. That's why cross transfer would get taxable. If a property is transferred to mother, clubbing provisions would not apply. Shivam, तभी first part मैंने ये बोला था कि clubbing provisions would apply only if they are falling in those respective sections. Now the section 60, section 61 में transfer of income without transfer of asset or revocable transfer है, which can apply to anyone. But other than that, individual के case में only spouse, minor and son's wife, उसी में clubbing provisions आएंगे. If you are transferring your property to your mother without consideration, no clubbing provisions. Whatever income gets taxed would be taxed in the hands of mother. Okay, so that's all from my side. See you in the next class where we'll be coming and starting deductions, which is from your gross total income. बहुत interesting है, very relatable. It would be quick, fun also, because now you can relate more when we come to the deductions part. Okay, thank you so much. See you in the next class.